There's an expression, and it goes like this. If you're a hammer, everything is a nail. And this applies to anyone in an engineering role. If you give an IT engineer a problem, they're going to figure out a solution, and that's going to be the solution you get. And this is relevant. I'll get to it in just a moment, but I'm going to tell you a story. So, about 25 years ago, I was working as a network engineer for a excellent, very established computer consulting and a very established computer consulting company in Los Angeles. And so we sold servers and network hardware, and we did on-site support. And for the small SMB businesses, we would do everything from like PC and desktop support all the way up to their server infrastructure. This cloud didn't exist. Everybody had email servers on site. Everything was on site. And then we went everywhere from the SMBs all the way up into Fortune 1500 and Fortune 1000s. And usually in that case, it was augmented expertise for their IT teams, specifically related around migration projects. So maybe you were migrating from Novell to Windows NT, or you were migrating from GroupWise to Exchange, or you had a AS400 to AS400 migration upgrade. So upgrades and migrations, really. We were the hired guns that were brought in to do big migrations and to provide that like expert guidance and overlay for the IT teams. So this story is personal. So we have a customer, and by the way, put how old this is. You'd buy a computer, and the computer wouldn't have a network card built into it. Nowadays, network cards just come built into every computer. Like you cannot get a computer that doesn't have some sort of networking capability. Even Apple. So Apple laptops most of them don't have the desktops all have like a port on the back. Laptops don't, but if you plug a USB thing in, it works just fine. But anyway, so desktop computers, everything has a network port built in. Server, same thing. You could buy a server that didn't have a network port plugged into it. Like, why do you need a server without a network port? So you'd go out and you buy a card, and the early generations of these cards, like the really sexy ones, were 3Com 509Bs, and then of course there were lots of clones because the 3Coms were really expensive cards, $100, $150, something like that. Memory serves, and you could go out and you can buy like knockoff, like other stuff for maybe $50, $75. And that doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're talking about now, you've got 100 computers, times 100 cards, like that stuff adds up real quick. Anyways, so I go out, I get a job order, I get a dispatch, I go out to this business, an accounting company, and they've got a computer. It's just not working right. It's just not connecting to the network. It's not doing what it's supposed to do. It can't authenticate with a server. I can still remember it. I remember the customer, where they were, their office. I remember this very vividly. It's seared into my memory. Can't get it to work. And they had a great program where all the engineers were like paired. So we had our buddies, and this is back in the days of like Nextel, where you had like their walkie-talkie phone. And you're like, bleep, I'm having this problem with this computer, right? And I end up after not getting anywhere with it, I ended up bringing this desktop back to our office. We've got a cool setup in the back with this like warehouse industrial space where we all have like workbenches, or we have like power strips and test gear and like all this different stuff and multiple monitors, and we can do assemblies. And so I bring this thing back to try to get this thing to work, and I'm literally working on it, in the back of the warehouse. And as time passes, I just accumulate like more engineers, like more guys, right? End up coming around, and there must be like 3 or 4 of us. I think there were 4 of us, honestly, like trying to figure out why this network card wasn't working and what was wrong with it and how to get it to work. The son of the owners, who was one of the main salespeople for the business, walks back. I don't know how he ended up in the back, but he walks back, and he kind of like walks up and has this like moment where he's like, hey guys, what's going on? And we're like, hey, yeah. He's like, what you working on? We're like, oh, working on this. And he's like, okay. And he's like sitting there looking at us, and I think he's doing and he's looking around. He's like, how long have you been working on this? At this point, I'm probably 3 hours in. And these other people are probably, there's a selection of like everybody's been there from like 30 minutes to like an hour and a half, like working out with me. And everybody's like, we've been working on this, blah, blah, blah. We just can't see. We just like crazy. And he's like, oh, okay. He's like looking around. he's like, and at that time, we had a structure where there was a T&M rate, and then there was discount tiers based on the amount of hours per month that we had like on a retainer with the business. And this particular customer had a $135 an hour retainer with us. And he's like, hold on a second. And he goes, how many hours have you been on this? And what's our hourly rate with this customer? And at this point, I'm ashamed still to admit it. It's funny now, it's been so long, but like at the moment, it was like this thing. He's like, how many hours are you into this? At what cost? And how much would a different network card, how much does a different network card cost, right? Never had it occurred to me up until that point that the solution was like, I could just go get the expensive network card and put it in there, and it would work instantaneously, which by the way it did, because we had these whole things in inventory. Just on my own time, I was probably almost $500 into like $500 worth of hours into this project, and then plus 3 other engineers, and so I mean, like, all in, there's like $1,000 worth of potential non-billed labor from like this business. And again, it's funny now thinking back on it. Wasn't so funny at the time. So we got like $1,000 worth of engineering time trying to fix a $50 network card that could be solved by just putting a $150 network card into it, right? And it's something that in the moment when it happened, again, I remember the customer, I remember their office, I know who it was, where they were located. I can remember, standing around the workbench. I know who was there with me. I can remember, the sales guy coming back and like asking about it. Like, it's very, I mean, this is 25 years ago, but it is a very vivid memory for me. And just having that moment of like, oh yeah, like, probably shouldn't be trying to figure out how to fix this network card. The real thing here is just replacing it. So the moral of the story that I took out of this, and one that I try to think about and maintain ever since then, is, are you working on the right problem? Are you solving the right problem? And this applies everywhere. This is a technical thing, but this goes into all things in business now at this point that I've been involved with, which is, are you a hammer and you're just trying to hammer the nail, or do you need to go find a screwdriver? And is that going to be the solution for you? Or in the case of the story, was the right solution just going out and getting a 3COM 509B and put it in there? And after that, by the way, I learned that lesson. And after that, I carried network cards with me. So I had a box in the trunk of my car that I took with me on all of my engineering calls when I had a dispatch into the field. And so I always had network cards with me. And they were the expensive ones. They're the nice ones. They were the ones that instantaneously worked all the time. And I never again had that problem where I spent too much time working on fixing a card. And I would tell the customer, I just tell them straight out, like, hey, this is what a replacement card costs. And this is what it costs per hour. My proposal is we will go through the obvious things, but at the 15-minute mark, if this is not solved, my recommendation to you is and I would give them the option. They could tell me, keep going, not keep going, let's try to solve it. But you explain it in terms of like, all they really see is this computer's not working and I want the computer to work. And if you would give them some parameters, it was like, this is kind of the experience with it. And here's your option. This would cost this much. This would cost this much. We can try to do the cheap route first. But at this point of trying the cheap route with no guarantees or no fix, let's just do the real fix. And from that point forward, that was my approach. And guess what? Everybody was happy because they knew that you were looking out for them. And just being able to say, this thing is going to cost this much. It makes sense for you at this point. This is just what this looks like. Like, I will check in with you in a few minutes and tell you where we're at. And you can say yes or no. And you still have control and you still have power and you still have the final say and you get to decide what you do. But now I'm arming you with enough information that you can actually make that decision. And it's not just, I don't know what's wrong with this computer. It's not working. Make it work. So I'm Max Clark. I still am trying not to be a hammer for every problem.